こんばんは。フォレックス TV ニューヨークのレミです。2月25日月曜日の午後の為替レポートをお伝えします。アメリカ株式相場は大幅続伸しました。スタンダード&ポアーズが金融保証会社モノラインの MBIA とアンバックファイナンシャルグループの AAA で据え置くと伝わりました。これを受け金融株を中心に買い戻しが優勢となり、株式相場が上昇しました。ダウ工業株30週平均は先週末189ドル20セント高の 12,570 ドル22セントで終えた。ナスダック総合株価指数は先週末 24.13 ポイント高の 2327.48 で終えた。ニューヨーク外国為替市場で円相場は反落しました。アメリカ住宅指数が市場予想を上回ったことを受け、円売りドル買いが出ました。ドル円は前週末90銭円安ドル高の108円ちょうどから108円10銭で取引を終えた。1月のアメリカ中古住宅販売件数は489万棟と前月比 0.4% 減となり、市場予想を上回りました。また円は対ユーロで大幅に続伸しました。ユーロ円は前週末1円35銭円安ユーロ高の160円20銭から30銭で取引を終えた。それではデイリー FX.com のボリス・ロスバーグさんとのインタビューをご覧ください。
Well, as we start off the week, the Japanese yen is down against the majors. We saw choppy trading in equities, and the major indexes are back up on the heels of the existing home sales data. But as the market awaits news from Ambac Financial, as well as more data coming out this week, if you could tell us first and foremost where you stand in terms of the U.S. economy.
Well, the existing home sales was a nice boost because it basically showed that perhaps the housing market is finally starting to stabilize. Certainly lower interest rates are starting to help move inventory off the lot, albeit at lower prices. So that helped the equities, and I think obviously that helped dollar yen to go higher. We're now trading above the 108 handle. We're flirting around with that level, and it looks like it wants to go higher. We see 110 is very much a strong cement ceiling in dollar yen at this point, but there's quite potential here for a couple hundred more points in a trade as carry flows come right back. It all stems right back to the idea of risk appetite coming on the table, and the Ambac story is critical. We need to see a positive resolution to that. If we see all of a sudden the deal be off the table, if suddenly something goes wrong, I think you'll see the whole thing unwind right in front of our eyes.
Okay, Boris, now that we've highlighted some of the themes that will play out in the FX market this week, let's turn our focus over to euro dollar. The pair has been trading in a wide range since hitting record highs in the end of November, but given that we have a slew of U.S. data out this week, and also we have key data from the Eurozone, including the IFO, if you could give us your long-term outlook for the euro as well as this week's outlook.
Yeah, well, we're still bullish euros. We still think 150 is within grasp, and IFO pretty much is going to either make or break the euro this week. If the IFO report stays at the current levels that it was at 103, or perhaps even better, that should give the euro a lot of a boost. Basically, the euro's hesitant right now because the whole idea of decoupling and recoupling is playing through that currency pair. It's very much a battle between the bulls and the bears right now, between those who argue that the Eurozone is inevitably going to follow U.S. into a slowdown and the ECB will have to cut rates, versus those who are saying that the Eurozone is actually able to withstand most of the slowdown quite well, and therefore the ECB is going to stay stationary at 4% for quite a while, and of course the Fed is certainly going to cut rates as we go forward. So as that interest rate differential expands, 150 becomes closer and closer a reality. And that is pretty much the tension in the market at this point. So IFO tomorrow is going to be critical to see how well it resolves itself.
Okay, now that you've given us your euro dollar outlook, what's your forecast for euro yen?
Well, euro yen is very much a function right now of carry flows. Euro yen is actually today came back and took out the 160 level, which was critical. This was a big level when we had a lot of risk liquidation that everybody was looking for. Then when it gave, euro yen then of course went all the way down to like 152 as equities came all the way down. So now having recovered all the way to 160, it's actually sort of a very positive signal, I guess, from both ends that risk has come back and perhaps that the equity market will also remain relatively buoyant for the foreseeable future. So euro yen is going to really function very much on those flows, on the idea that the global economy is slowing but not going into a recession. That, of course, keeps Eurozone rates high, and it makes it the preeminent carry trade as we go forward.
Okay, I want to get your take on the yen crosses, but before we move on to the yen crosses, in today's session we saw the euro decline against the CAD and the US dollar also weaken against the CAD. So do you think a dollar CAD is currently overextended, and what is your strategy for the CAD crosses?
Well, you know, from a fundamental point of view, it's very hard to call the CAD. On a technical basis, our technical analyst is actually very, very bullish CAD. He thinks dollar CAD is going to go through parity and pretty much go to test the 97 handle in the near term. And that suggests, and I think probably the CAD is having a sort of a late reaction to the $100 oil in some ways. You know, dollar CAD was weakened, and dollar CAD rose, CAD weakened on the assumption that the Canadian economy is really going to slow down substantially because the U.S. economy is going to slow down substantially. Ironically enough, the less of a problem there is in the U.S. economy, the stronger Canadian dollar will become, because that was the primary fear. The Canadian dollar intrinsically is actually very strong, but the fear was that they were going to be subject to a very severe slowdown in the United States, since they're our biggest export partner. If that doesn't occur, they actually will strengthen, and our technical analysis should be quite correct. We should go through parity all the way to 97.
以上、デイリー FX.com のボルシュ・ロスバーグさんとのインタビューでした。ForexTV ジャパンのレミがお伝えしました。最新の為替情報については ForexTV ジャパンをご覧ください。